My name is Shauna Rewald. I'm the founder program coordinator at the Kendra Scott Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership Institute. And we are so excited to have Lourdes with us here today. After talking to so many of our founders, I learned that the one thing that most of our founders are seeking is help with funding and funding opportunities and grant writing. And so I was able to connect with Lourdes and meet her, and she told me that she has so much experience with this. And so I was really excited to bring her in as a resource for our founders and just a resource for our KS Valley community. So thank you so much for joining us. And Lourdes, I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you. I really appreciate this amazing group of people logging in. And I know that you guys are doing a lot of good work for people that are trying to get their businesses off the ground. And I'm just so humbled that you guys invited me. So thank you again for the invitation. And I will just present some of the things that have been helpful to me and things that have worked for me and other resources that I know. I work with a lot of women that are developing their own strategies in fundraising and also in business. So hopefully that will be something that will spark some conversations, and hopefully if there is anything I can do to support and to help and research a little bit more, let's do it. So I'm going to share my screen to share the presentation. Let's find it, and let me know if you see it.
It looks great. We can see it. And then also I'm recording the session, so anyone who may have missed it can enjoy it.
I think you might be muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said I'm recording this session, so anyone who may have missed it. Oh, you were saying it to Lourdes, not to me.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. Lourdes, you might be, I think you're muted.
Can you hear me there? Yes?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. What did I put my, oh, what is that? Okay, here. Can you hear me there? You can hear me, right?
Yes, you're good.
Perfect, perfect. So just a little bit of perspective, and I always like to kind of tell who I am and what I bring and how I show up to spaces. I think it's important. So I'm the founder and CEO for the Financial Health Pathways. We're a nonprofit that have been in the community for, oh gosh, almost 20 years. I'm a Latina community leader and an immigrant. I moved here about 20 years ago. I'm also a presidential leadership scholar. I was honored to be named presidential scholar this year and have a very amazing opportunity. You can see some of the pictures here. I got to meet a couple of presidents or former presidents, President Bush and Clinton. And I am also just was very, very honored to receive the Austin Business Journal Best CEO nominee. I'm also part of the LBJ Women's Campaign School. I was part of the inaugural class, and I'm also an American Express Leadership Academy scholar. These are some of the things that I've done in the community and the things that I feel very proud as a Latina to have accomplished in my life, and just very, very humble that, you know, the community that I adopted 20 years ago had adopted me back. And that's just how I show up to any space that I go into. The reason I said that is because a lot of us feel like because we're women and because some of us are women of color, we do not have the same access to opportunities. And that is very true, but it's also a call of action to embrace who we are and keep pushing forward. When I joined the organization that I'm in, I joined an organization that was in a very bad shape. And it was very difficult for someone to see what the other side looked like. I joined in 2017, and it was an organization that was 14 years in the community, and their budget was $18,000. There were 10,000 in negative numbers. For all of you that are number people, the economics of that does not sound very appealing to anybody. So a little bit of the story of the organization is that in 2018, we hired our first executive director. My first year, I actually worked as a volunteer. I did not take a salary because the company could not afford me or pay me anything. So I decided to just work for almost a year without compensation. In 2019, I built a strategy to diversify our source of revenue and build new programs that were relevant to the community and the needs of the community. In 2020, I created a new arm that was advocacy and awareness of critical issues, and draft and build a new messaging, a new narrative that I was going to embrace in the upcoming years. And I left everything that was done previously behind because as the organization was not a sustainable organization and had a lot of issues, I think it was best to have a strategy that will be a new strategy and that will embrace a new model. So in 2021, I launched our new branding under the name of Financial Health Pathways. And in 2022, we announced the expansion of our services through the state of Texas. Previously, it was just Central Texas. This is a little bit of the snapshot of what our finances look like. So in 2016, they raised $13,000 and some change. In 2017, it was actually going in the wrong direction. It was $11,000 that they raised. I joined in 2017, and my activity, you can see on 2018, that was purely my activity. It was $150,000 and some change that I raised. The upcoming year in 2019 was 192 on the upcoming year in 2020. In 2021, through pandemic, I triple or double what I was raising, and I did over 300,000. And in 2022, in current year, I'm still raising money, but I actually surpassed the $500,000 in funds raised. Why does this matter? And how does that relate to what we are talking about today? Is that you can have a clean slate and have your own business and grow your business with a strategy, but you can also have a company that you adopt or that you get involved and not find it in the best shape. And it takes some work to build that company and build the sustainability of the company. The first thing I would share with you guys is any opportunity you have to tell the story of your business or your nonprofit, you have to have a clear message. One thing I learned from President Clinton, who was the master of communications, is that you have to center your pitch to 3 or 4 key words or phrases that you want to embrace. And why does that matter? Because when you're inconsistent in your messaging, people don't know what you do. People don't know what your company is about. So you have to define clearly what that narrative looks like and how you're going to tell that story. Most people in business, especially in corporate, most people start with the what. I will always advise people to start with why. And why does that matter? When you say what, you don't connect with people. You're basically telling them, we sell pencils, and here is our pencils cost $1 each. People are like, okay, well, there's a lot of pencils. But if you say, we believe in taking care of the environment, we believe that what we do matters in every industry, and we design pencils that are friendly to the environment. And so you're telling the story of why first, and then you tell them what you sell and how you're running your business or what the strategies are. So it's important to understand that whether you are in a room full of investors or you are in a luncheon or a networking opportunity and you have 30 seconds to tell somebody what you do, and that can be a crucial encounter with someone that can potentially be an investor, you have to know in a very succinct way what you do and how you want to tell that story. And usually telling why is a good way to connect with people, whether they are wealthy people or not. They can be potential customers or people that are potentially can invest in your business. So that's why it's important, the why, and everything else falls into place once you know what your why is. I don't know if you want me to stop for any questions that you have, but if you do, please feel free to tell me. I will just continue, and then we definitely will have some time for questions later on. So funding streams typically for small business are, as many of you know, venture capital and crowdfunding. The most famous and significant that are GoFundMe, iFundWomen, Indiegogo. Then we have grants. A lot of grants are done through the Small Business Administration, and then there's also the U.S. grants, and there's local economic development in every municipality. They all have an arm of municipalities that do cater to small business, and you have to register as a I don't know, Hispanic-led business, or African American or Asian-led, and a lot of them actually get a contract by city codes. Sometimes they have incentives to do business and contracts with minority groups, but any small business is always good practice to enroll into whatever programs they have at the city level, so you can have opportunities to do contract with the city. And then we have the small business loans that are through banks, CDFIs. I know a lot of people don't know about CDFIs, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Those are opportunities that when you have a small business, you should definitely look into these different opportunities. So today we're going to talk about grant writing, and something that has been very helpful to me is to have these key points that I'm going to show and share with you guys. So a lot of people know there is a cover page or a cover letter. People always say, well, what's the difference, or how are they interchangeable? Not necessarily. Every grant has their own criteria and their own requests for different information, but these are more like the most common. You do a cover page, understand that that is perhaps almost like your business card when you go into an event and you give your business card. So have somebody scanning your LinkedIn or any information you want to share with them. So this is kind of your business card. This is going to talk about, your business. It's portraying the need, but it's a very succinct way to say it. You have to kind of almost get the attention of somebody with some type of statement that will get the attention, because this is the first page people read. If it doesn't get their attention, oftentimes they're like, oh, like I can already tell this person is not centered into what we're looking for. And then the cover letter kind of same along the lines of like the first impression, but it's almost a little bit more of a proposal that describes the company, not necessarily like the reasons why you're applying, but more about the company and more about you and what you're bringing to the table. Table of contents is very important as well. The reason I'm also a reviewer for grant applications, not just someone that writes grants, but I'm a reviewer for some. And it's always helpful when you have like lengthy applications and you're trying to see where the nitty gritty is, where it's like, I often, if I don't have time, cover letter, cover page is not something I'll read. I'll glance at it, but I don't often read that if I don't have to. I usually go to summary. And if I know on the table of contents, the summary is what I see. Is this an opportunity? Does it fit with this grant? So table of contents is very important. People appreciate it, and people are more like, oh, I'm going to read this because they laid out clearly what those chapters are and what pages are. So if it makes it easier for the reviewer, usually you have a good chance that people will read it. Then, as I mentioned, the executive summary is probably the first page most reviewers read. Most people that are interested in reading an application will go to the executive summary, because that's where, in a very concise way, you have to know. I'm a reporter, I'm a journalist, so I usually go for like the 5 questions you have to answer in the first paragraph, and then you elaborate on all of them, right? But you have like 2 or 3 of those 5 questions you put more emphasis on. So the executive summary is the same. I will always advise people to elaborate on their why. What business you're in, if it's women with environmentally conscious clothing, for example. It's a big trend. People are like, so say we feel inclined to take care of our environment, and that's why we're this new trend in fashion is like building clothes that are environmentally friendly. So, and then talk about your business. We've done this and this, and that's where most people will concentrate their efforts at the very beginning of the reviewer, is that how does that fit in the criteria? And that's probably one of the most critical things that I learned in grant writing. And that was actually something that a good friend of mine advised me when I was doing fundraising. Read every portal criteria of giving, or their RFPs, or whatever the grant is calling for, and use that narrative. When you do that, if you talk about your organization or your business with the same language of the criteria that they are looking for, those words are resonating on the people that is reading your application. Most people don't pick up on that, and I think that oftentimes that what has happened is that because they don't see that connection, they immediately think they didn't even read the application, but they're like, oh, these are far from what our scope of work is. And so then they're like, no. But if you take a second look, then down below, you're like seeing like, oh yeah, it is aligned with what we do, but you didn't put it on the executive summary. So you didn't get their attention. They immediately are going to dismiss that application. The needs statement is definitely something that I will polish. I will have someone else reviewing it, someone that has nothing to do with your business, probably knows nothing about your business or very little, because you want some like innocent eyes, what I call it, to read things. And one example that I always say is, a lot of people ask me, how have I connected finances with health? And I've done a lot of research on that, and connecting the social determinants of health embrace. So if you make that connect, it is possible to make that connection. If you make that connection, I actually have foundations that are more given in the medical field, giving me money. Why? Because if people don't have financial stability, they can't afford insurance. And therefore, it's in your best interest for people to have financial stability, and that would allow them to have medical insurance. And so when you make that connection, you always paraphrase what they are looking in those criteria of giving. And so it's important that you read it, and it's important that somehow, some way, you connect that narrative to what you are doing. And the need statement is also something that, why do we need, let's talk about something like, let's say jewelry. Why do we need to have jewelry and for it to be affordable to people? Because we want to build confidence in women, because we want them to go and feel empowered that they can conquer the world. That's a value that most people will not make that connection in the business world. But if you make that connection, then you can say, you know what, this is why it's important that we do this, that we provide quality products at affordable prices for women to feel empowered and to feel good about themselves. That's a story that you want to tell. So that's why it's important that the needs statement is very fleshed out, that people understand that you're not just selling A, Y, or Z, that this is important for a much bigger idea, a much bigger endeavor, not just this, right? And so something that I always tell people is to have a one-pager with a needs statement, and then you paraphrase, copy and paste and paraphrase, and depending on each application that you're filling out. The description of the business, pretty straightforward. You have a business plan, you have a proposal, you have something that tells, what the business does. How do you acquire clients? How do you run the operations? Do you have foundational elements? Do you not? If you don't, that's an opportunity for an investor to say, you know what? They've been doing well, but they don't have an accounting system. So maybe if we put some, gasoline into that fire, they will be more successful. So you have to make that connection. Even if it's something that you don't think is a bad thing, you turn it into an opportunity. You don't say it's a bad thing. You don't say we don't have this. You say we've been doing well. These are the things we are looking into having, foundational things, infrastructure, whatever systems you need in place. And once you have that, you will be even more sustainable and more successful. And so people said, oh, that's an opportunity. If you frame it as an opportunity, people see that. If you frame it as we don't have this, we don't have that, then people know, oh, they have a long way to continue like building their business before they need an investment. So always phrase it in the description of the business as an opportunity that will take you to the next level, if that makes sense. The purpose, obviously, we talk a lot about the why, and I think that falls into the purpose. Why, in this case, why is important that people invest in your business? Why would it be important that, I don't know, for all of you that maybe watch Shark Tank, I learned a lot through that show in different capacities. But one thing that I always go back to is when you talk about your business, when you talk about your idea, there are different elements. And when you're a small business, sometimes you don't see, you think you're just putting fires, but you have to be able to see through the forest. You have to see ahead. And a lot of times, back to the infrastructure thing, or, client acquisition, like if your client acquisition is very expensive, you can say, well, if we have more inventory and sell more inventory, then we can order in higher quantities. So that goes at a lower price per queue or SKU, and our client acquisition can be less if we're spending less money on these other things. So then you connect those dots, you connect how it's important that someone invest in your business, because if you have the capital to make a bigger order, they will go at a cheaper price, because the more volume you order, sometimes the better it is for you. That's an example. If you're in the, let's say you're selling some things that are more for like parties or things that you need a database to collect information about people's birthdays, when they have, wedding days, or having a significant moment that the date, so that you can reach out to them during those times. That becomes something that's the purpose of the investment you're looking for. If you can identify those things that can potentially put you into the next level with the next chapter in your business and make you more successful, an investor wants to know that. But the investor doesn't know that, because the investor doesn't know your business. You do. So it's important that you're aware of those different elements of your business that you think that are an opportunity, and it gives the purpose of asking for money. And when you connect those dots, then people think, oh, they actually know, they've done their homework, they know their business really well. So, they're worth the investment. If somebody asks you about your business and you're like, oh, I don't know about that. I don't know how much it costs for me to acquire clients. I don't know about that. They're going to say, well, if you don't know that, then you certainly are not ready for an investment or, a grant, because oftentimes, even through grant applications, I actually have gone through panels of people are asking me or trying to redefine my business. And I'm like, well, this is what we do. We've been very successful with that. So always stick up for your business and have a clear conscious of what you're willing to adjust that are like more cosmetic things, but the bones of it, if that's the business model you have, sometimes the investor wants to change that. I personally don't want that. I often don't like doing that, just because I have to stay true to what I'm building, right? Because the money is not going to change that. Some people do it for the money, but in the long run, if you're pleasing everybody, you're pleasing no one. The evaluation part is another thing that, back to the numbers and knowing your business, is something you have to have a very good grasp on, because people that are giving you money through grants or investments, they're always going to ask, what are the numbers? Tell me. You can, you can learn anything you want about a business by looking at the balance sheet, by looking at this financial statement. If you ask, do you have debt? Have you given equity? If you don't know those numbers, and in the evaluation, it's going to come up. Like, you have to know your numbers. You have to know like how much revenue you've done. Have you broken even? Have you, do you have a lot of inventory? There's like, I remember a business that I was evaluating, and they ordered a lot of inventory, the different colors of the same things, but they weren't selling a lot. And I was like, why are you ordering more SKUs to your inventory? Like, if you haven't sold anything, it makes no sense to keep making more SKUs, right? And in her mind, she needed to have variety. But I was like, no, you don't. You still have to prove that you can do this, that you have a good model, right? And so sometimes those numbers, you have to know like what your revenue is. If you have make revenue, you have to know like how much does it cost to acquire clients? How much inventory do you still have on hand? What are your projections? And people ask you about projections. You're like, ooh, I don't know. But you know, in Christmas you sell more. You know, and like there are slow times in January, for example, for me, it's like a super slow season because most people come back from holidays. There's like not a lot of activity for me. So I know what months I have a lot of activity. So when people ask me, I know that by heart. But sometimes business owners don't. So you kind of have to know your how you evaluate your success, selling, bringing services, whatever that is, and also know your numbers. Back to this slide, you know, the budget, your numbers. How much does it cost you to run the business? Some people don't declare. I made that mistake at the very beginning of my career, and like paying for myself, like, oh, you know, this is a luncheon that I feel bad for the organization, so I'm going to pay. Well, we will never know how much it costs to run the organization if I don't have those expenses recorded, right? So you kind of have to know your budget. How much does it take to run the organization, and what does it take? Does it take one full-time employee and me? Does it take more? Do we need to scale? So all those things, you look at the budget and you know where the direction is. So that's another thing that you have to know your numbers, especially when you're looking for money. Most people, when they give money, they're going to ask you for all these things, and you have to know them by heart. Supporting documents, you know, if you have mentions in, I don't know, let's say you got a mention on Oprah and went into Oprah's magazine as one of the best, you know, new products out there. And, you know, those are things that you want to say. You have like additional information that might be attractive to the person that is reviewing the application, or, you know, the people that you're meeting to get an investment or something that you're looking from them. So always make sure you have like things that are unique to your business, things that are unique to you, because you ended up being a representation of your business. So all that to say that supporting documents is always something that I see as your opportunity to impress them and do a little extra for the grant, or for the person that you're meeting with, and just telling them who you are and what your business is about. Let's see. Checklist. Something that has served me well in my many grants that I wrote is, at first I did not have a checklist, and I did not have a place or a folder in my computer that will be only for grant. I was looking frantically for all my documents and all my application. Where did I put that budget I put together for this other foundation that I really like? I regret it. So I'll pass that on to you to have a folder on your computer where you have all the applications you've done, things that you can use in the future, have your business plan, have your financial statements, have your narrative. I would suggest to have a case of support or a summary of your business if it's corporate, because it's important to have that handy. You can copy and paste and then customize according to what the criteria of the grant is. Have your data that is proving the need. I go to FINRA for the activity that I do. I go to the census and say, you know, people in Texas are like, women in between 18 and 24 are more propense to live in poverty because we don't have financial stability and we live in poverty. That is my data that I use to prove that we need to invest in my organization because we are doing that work to increase those numbers. So you have, you know, particular data to what you do, have that handy. Finding prospects with deadlines. That's another thing that I didn't do until I sat down with one of my friends and said, you know what, you have so many opportunities, but you have to just put it. I missed deadlines at the very beginning. Like, I regret not having that calendar or that spreadsheet with like deadlines and thinking, okay, every week on a Friday, I will look at it and say, oh, like the DKR Foundation is giving a grant at the end of November. I still have time. Or at the end of December, I still have time. So I start working on that and putting that more at the forefront of my to-do list. So having a sense of deadlines is always important when you're doing grants. The Small Business Administration has a lot of deadlines as well. So you might want to just write down like women that are doing, I don't know, food insecurity things, and they have products about that. They have catering businesses. We're doing this workshop. Have that in your deadlines and say, I need to register to this, or I need to look into this workshop because they're going to give me money if I go through it. So have that deadline close to you and review it every week if possible. I have Mondays and Fridays that I don't try to schedule a lot of meetings because I go over emails, appointments, and my to-do list, which is like prospecting for next year. Right now, I'm doing that as we speak. So it's important to have something that keeps you centered, keeps you focused. And I make my mission to explore 10 new grants every quarter. And by exploring, I mean opportunities. Not all of them pan out to be a grant that fits what we do, but just exploring 10 new grants gives me the idea of, okay, what's out there and what I can go for and what I don't qualify for. So that's important. How are we on time? Okay, we're still good. Mistakes in writing grants. A few, there's a lot, but a few. Misplaced priorities is one. When you look at the grant proposals, you have to, again, see what they're looking for, and you have to center that in between what you're selling or services that you have provided or you're providing, and having a sense of the opportunities. Back to that advice that I gave you about opportunities. If you're saying we're going to develop more products in different colors, but we haven't sell anything, that means your priorities are misplaced. If you're trying to look for more product, but you haven't sold the product you have on hand, that's a misplaced priority. What you can say is, we're trying to look for a system that would allow me to track how much inventory I have, and we're trying to implement CMR that will send this massively to all our customers and advertise with sales, like some promotions. We're looking for money to develop to find that software and to get that customer promotions, because we want to move the product we have on hand. Then they said they clearly know what they're doing because they have a lot of inventory. They want to push that through, other platforms. They want to buy ads in Facebook because they want to push that. That is not a misplaced priority. But if you're looking for more product when you have product, that's a misplaced priority. So you have to know that. And if they sense that in your application, they're probably going to say they're not ready for an investment, or we can't give them the grant. Lack of focus on detail. A lot of people, I read this over and over, people saying, we're doing good work, we're being really good at this. And for me, there's like, okay, but how? Tell me in details. Like, people don't want to when you have a paragraph that you make it 3 or 4 just because you're going around the world with words. People don't really see that well in grant applications. They want to know like specific things you're doing for your business. We're reaching out to women in communities of color, or we are trying to go into these young, powerful, younger women that have, buying power, and we're offering all these services. That, you have to be very specific about what you're telling them and how you're doing your business, not just we're doing good. Hayward language, when people try to sound smart and overcomplicate things, I personally don't appreciate that. When I read applications, people are like pulling like words that no one hears, and you're like, the time that it takes me to understand this application, I don't know. And so a lot of people, simplicity is the best when you're writing something. It's being able to tell in a very straightforward way to a person that is reading your application, my business is worth an investment, or it's deserving of this grant because we're doing this work with this particular community or this market that no one has touched. if you said it in plain terms, if you said it with like simple language that anyone can understand, my editor used to say to me, you can write for people that is very elite, but what I need you to do is to write something that the very elite can understand, but also someone that didn't even go to school. If you do that, you're a good writer. Oh, okay. So I got the message. Too many technical terms when people ask, I said FINRA and I didn't say what that was. That's a regulator for financial services. So if you're talking this jargon that only you understand or the people that work in your industry, but maybe an investor is not, he's just rich and wants to invest, but you're like turning him off like by saying things that he doesn't understand. So just be very careful when you use technical terms. Make sure that everybody understands what you're talking about, economic development, economic mobility, or, things that are more industry driven. But that's why I always advise that your grant application should be read by someone that has nothing to do with your business. So if that person understands, oh, that was good. I mean, I didn't understand what you meant by this. Then, okay, so then there's some modifications that I need to do because I want this to be able to reach anyone that reads it. So just keep in mind that sometimes in our quest to sound smart, sometimes that can backfire on you. I mentioned community development financial institutions because not a lot of people know about them, but those are the best place for, especially for small women businesses. I put, and you're all gonna get this slide, so or you're gonna get the deck. So there's a few in Texas. There's more, but there's like the most significance here that I put that you can check. Why I said this is because the banks tend to be very not flexible with requirements. You have to have a credit score that is in a certain level, and you have to have certain things that sometimes those become barriers more than opportunities. So CDFI institutions get money to give to small businesses and also people, individuals, and their fees are not as high as the banks. So if you ask, and I put this as an example, if you ask for a loan of $1,000 because you're trying to, I don't know, get some ads or maybe hire a part-time admin to work with you and help you, you only pay $120 in fees and you repay the loan in 12 months. That's not a lot. A bank will ask you for 600 or even more. So just to know, there are other institutions like the CDFIs that are designed to give small dollar loans to businesses and people for, their businesses or for other things that they might need. And then Community Loan Center is actually a really good institution that, caters to this because they're funded for these particular purposes. So you should check it out. And then a few resources that I would say, you guys, one thing is network. There is always an opportunity to network, and you might be surprised. You might find people that will connect you with someone, or they will be the person to say, oh, I didn't know that you're doing that in your business. Let me talk to, our partners or our firm, and we can invite you for, maybe a presentation or something, and they can eventually become people that will help you, not just financially, but also opening doors for you. So the U.S. Small Business Administration, obviously the SBA, is one place that I would encourage all of you to check out and see what they have for you. The small business at the City of Austin, the economic development, there's also a lot of people there that cater to particularly women and minorities. They have to contract with a lot of minorities and women. So that's an opportunity as well. People Fund, they also have not just loans, but also workshops, anything you need to know that will help and create more skills for you to run your business. They do that. Community Loan Center, the CDFI, EGBI, another great organization that does a lot of workshops and a lot of offer a lot of grants and opportunities for small businesses. US Gov, obviously that's a big organization. They have chapters around the country. The National Association of Women Business Owners is another organization, have a lot of opportunities for you to explore. Divine Inc. again, they're incubators. So if you go to the program, same thing as Notley. I don't know if many of you know about them, but Notley, Divine Inc., they're all like target to develop small business and people that are coming up with these innovative ideas. So always look at those opportunities for accelerators, hubs, incubators, because not only because you learn something, but also because you ended up, networking with people. It's very lonely. The job of being a business owner or an entrepreneur is a very lonely environment. But if you create a village around you, it will be probably a lot easier than if you're trying to go by yourself. And just have to know that balance, when to just be on your own, but when to also rely on other people. I put a few grants in places that support women. So I hope that, any of these can be an opportunity for you, but these are probably my favorite places that I always encourage the women that I mentor that are doing their small businesses to go into and look for the opportunities. Again, it's all about resourcing to opportunities, and, a lot of these organizations, if anything, are going to give you some access to something that you didn't have before. That concludes this presentation. Thank you. Here's my contact information. If y'all have any questions or have, want to drop me a note or something that I can help you with, I'll be happy to do that. And I will open it up for questions.
I don't have a question, but thank you so much for sharing that last list with us. That was absolutely incredible. I feel like those are the kinds of lists that someone like me is looking for as a small business owner. So I'm really excited to dive into those later.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more than that. There's a bunch of people that, I remember, I don't know where I reached out to Carrie Schwab, actually the daughter of Schwab, the big banker. And she sent me $5,000. I was like, oh, I just basically sent her an email with my vision of, what the organization should look like. And her staff responded to me and said, oh, she was so touched by, your email. So she sent you this check. I was like, okay. Sometimes, you dream big and you're like, I had no idea how. I was just like, it's almost like a cold call. I don't know her. I just know who she is. And I was like, Carrie Schraub sent me $5,000. Oh my goodness. That was so nice.
That is incredible. I was also really grateful that learning that you review, not only have you gone through a bunch of grant writing processes, but you also have been on the other side where you've reviewed a bunch of grants. You could really speak from this place of knowing what to look for and what not to look for. Like I was commenting on the chat that the table of contents is so smart. Like some of those smaller things that could really set your application apart. So good to have.
That is very true. That is very true. And trust me, I mean, I hate to say this, but some people just write very technical. I work for one of them. I actually work for a woman that will have that old newspaper with no pictures and it was all text. Oh my goodness. I was like, that is not going to help you. That's not going to help us anyway. You can't do that. You have to be very bullets and as a grant reviewer, I realized that is very true for a lot. We have assignments of I had to read 50 applications. It was this massive, I was one of the reviewers. There was 10 of us. And when you're looking at applications, I immediately go to the ones that are bullets. What do they have here? What chapter do I go? Because I'm not going to read 100 pages. So, just having the table of contents and say, okay, so the part that I really need to read to make my mind if this is going to make the cut or not is here and here. So I'm so thankful. But the people that wrote all kinds of things but didn't tell me what I wanted to know, I was like, if I have time, just put that aside and just say. So that again, it's not just being the writer, which I told you, and I share this with Leslie and you. Most people think I love grant writing. I don't. It's just I dread that, but I'm good at it. But I also been on the other side where I know exactly how it feels when you're reading applications. So it's definitely not my favorite thing to do, just, but I know how to do it.
What if you're still in the beginning phases of your business and you haven't made money yet? How can you write a grant to ask for money when you don't necessarily have like a proven record of things to show?
I've done that and I've been there. I had nothing to show anybody when I received my first major grant from Experian, the Experian Global Foundation. And basically, back to the why, Carol sat me down and said, okay, I want to know what you're doing. What's your vision? Go. Oh, so I started talking about, because I don't have anything to prove, what do I look like in 3 years? And why do I need to do what I need to do, what I'm doing right now? She said, okay, $75,000. And she raised that money every year. And to this day, she's been 5 years with me. So you can actually be at the very bottom, but take that as an opportunity and be honest about it. Because I said to Carol, I have nothing to show you. Like, I don't have any outcomes. So I just want you to know that. But then she said, okay, but how does this look like? Like, what's the vision? So, again, you can actually engage someone that way just by telling them your vision and the why it's important that you get that investment. So it was nice to, and we always go back to, because to this day we're really good, we're very close. And when I created this financial justice program, that's the program she funded before. Like, back then, when she gave me that first investment, this program has won 4 different awards statewide. So I proved her that my vision was on track of what she wanted us. And I proved her that I wasn't going to let her down on her investment. I proved her that I was going to work hard to be deserving of that investment. And I always check in with her and say, this is what we're doing. This is what this is producing, whether it's a service or a product. Like, you always want your investors and the people that give you support, you want them to know what are the things that you're accomplishing with that if it wasn't for them supporting you with the resources, you would not be there. Because if you're that person that, oh, I did this and I did this and I did this, but never grateful for what they've done for you and how they enable you to have that opportunity to do what you're doing, then relationships don't work that way. So I always make sure that my investors and my funders understand and feel included in the success we have. And I was best CEO nominee, and I invited Carol with me, and I said I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. So come enjoy that night with me and the rest of the people that we have there. So just always be grateful to the people that support you, and always make sure that they don't reach out to just when you need something from them, that you also are there for them as well, and in different things, capacities.
Thank you for sharing that. I don't know if you saw
I'm reading.
seeing the chat, but there's a couple.
Very cool.
Does anybody else have any other questions?
I just want to say thank you. This is very practical, helpful information that I'll be using for sure. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so happy that, it's something, I mean, it's very generic but, if you ever have a question, not just you, but anyone in this call, like, please feel free to send me a note. And, I do a lot for young women, and always happy to help. I know that sometimes rejection is not something that anyone is wired to take well. I know that sometimes through the applications, I filled out so many, and sometimes people said, oh, don't you get tired? I'm like, there's always a weekend that I have a deadline with something. But when you don't get it, you're like, oh my gosh, like, I wish I got that one. I thought I was gonna get it. But don't get discouraged. I mean, it's always I think it's always a way that I comfort myself through that is that I'm lucky that I have people around me that believe in what I do. So surround yourself with people that believe in what you're doing and don't get discouraged, because most of the people that we see successful out there, we don't know behind closed doors how they struggle. I mean, this girl that, I was recently reading to her story that did the Spanx. Um, she had to, a lot of people copy her. A lot of people took her business, and knock it off. And I'm like, there is always going to be people around that will try to copy you. I have a lot of people, taking ideas from me. I trusted in people that didn't really shouldn't trust, but I always think of it as, okay, so I'm gonna fall down today, but then I'll get up and I'll honor my feelings, but then I'll get up and I'll continue doing what I'm doing. So business ownership is a very, very fulfilling role, but it's also a role that, you're gonna find some bumps in the road and rejection, but you keep your chin up and you'll see that hard work always pays off. It's definitely something that in my experience, um, I've always tried to be ethical, and to do the work that I need to do my homework. And, it's the opportunity. There's a lot of opportunities out there. So if I can help in any way, I'm happy to do that.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. You had one more comment in the chat.
Yeah. If I know more resources, I'll send them y'all's way.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, Lourdes. That was really insightful. And I know that anyone who couldn't make it today is going to be really grateful to have these resources.
Of course, of course. And feel free to share it. And thank you again for the work that you and Leslie are doing for all these amazing women that I'm going to see in the Fortune magazine in a few years. And I
Yes.
know we're going to rock it. And so I'm just happy and honored to be here with all of you. And thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, we will see you soon. And thank you all for coming today.
Bye.
Bye.